combat in Italy?
Combat moves. Describe it out. Like exactly. Is it just like just going up against the enemy lines?
Treatment like in the hospital.
Well, I had bled out quite a bit because the bullet that went through my leg had cut my femoral artery. The femoral artery. That's the major artery going down the spine. So I didn't know it at the time, except the pain from having that bullet hit my bone and shattered it. So I was bleeding out at that time, and I kind of passed out. And then this combat medic, his name is Kelly. I was after the Japanese name. Came down after me to get me, carried me back over the hill. And then the litter bearers carried me back to the aid station. By that time, I had kind of passed out. And when I recovered, found out that there was a IV plasma being put in, which helped me get conscious again. Then I spent 4 months in the hospital. The T stands for, a technician or specialist. Then when my unit went to France, they got attached to the 36th Infantry Division. We call them the T-Patch Boys because they're originally Texas.
How did your home front react to the war when it started?
Well, it raised the anxiety level in my mom and dad and my older siblings because they didn't know what was going to happen. For the younger kids, myself and my two younger brothers, they were 9 and 7 and I was 11. We were more excited because we, what's going to happen, After the war started, and then about 1943, in January of 43, Secretary Stimson, who was the Secretary of War, allowed Japanese Americans to volunteer for the Army. And so my second oldest brother did volunteer for the Army, and he became a medic with the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, and he went to Italy and France and then back to Italy. And he went all through the war through 1945, and he didn't get a scratch. He won a Bronze Star with an oak leaf cluster, which means he got a second Bronze Star, and he got a battlefield commission as second lieutenant. And then after the war, he stayed in the Oregon National Guard and became a full colonel. He was in charge of their the medical group for that Oregon National Guard division. My next older brother, next to me, in 1944, he got out of camp and went to Wisconsin to work in a hospital, I believe. And he was drafted from there, and he became one of these 10-week wonders, or whatever they called them. And he became a replacement for all the, one of the replacements for all of the Japanese Americans in the 442nd who had been killed up to that time. So he went to southern France, and then after they refurbished that regimental combat team, they all moved to Italy in 1945, early in 1945. And he was killed in action on April 22nd, 1945, about 2 weeks before the war ended.
You being in the internment camp, what was your daily life?
Usually in the morning when you woke up fairly early because you wanted to wash up and get in line for breakfast. And and then you'd go back to your rooms, and school, if in September school started, so you had to go to classes even though there weren't too many books, and I don't remember having too much newspaper or pencils or books or anything. The teachers were pretty good, but the classes were very, very large, and we were kind of hard to control. We didn't have any organized activities, but we'd always, guys would get together and play softball or something. If you were lucky and you had an older person in the block area where you lived, they would arrange to have track meets or football games and basketball games in their mid-20s and 30s. They arranged to have dances and things of that type, because that was the only way that the boys and girls could ever get together, were at these dances. And the camps, like Tule Lake, was divided into maybe 2 or 3 areas with great big fire breaks in between these areas. And then these areas had maybe, I don't know, 10 or 20 blocks. And each block would have like 14 barracks, 7 on one side and 7 on the other side. And right in the middle there would be 2 larger buildings. One was a mess hall, rec area, and the other area was a utility area, which housed the latrines, the showers, and wash basins and things of that type for washing clothes. Well, these barracks would house anywhere from 200 to 300 people. You didn't have anything else. You didn't have bathrooms, no living rooms, no dens, nothing of that type, no dining areas. And these barracks were made of wood, about, I guess, 3/4 of an inch thick, and 10 to 12 inch planks. And on the outside was tar paper, and the roofs were the same way. They had tar paper roofs, and there was no insulation at all. So if you punched a hole in the tar paper, you were out of luck. You were going to get cold. There's no question about it. And so to have any kind of privacy at all, especially for the women, like my oldest sister, you had to hang up blankets or something to segregate her so that she would have some privacy. But as far as talking, there was no way of talking in there without everybody hearing what you were saying. Well, when you went into a camp, through the front door, the front gate, there were Army personnel in service there with rifles. And there were guard towers along, at least in the corners, and maybe even more than that. And there was barbed wire fencing all around. So you knew you were being corralled. You knew you didn't have any freedom. And once you went in there, you knew there wasn't any other way to get out except through that front gate.